The street was too quiet for what came next. It was the kind of summer silence that pressed on your ears, broken only by the hiss of sprinklers and the distant hum of cicadas. A black man stood in front of his home, tall, broad-shouldered, calm. His cap shaded his eyes as he watered his lawn, each stream soaking into the dry earth. To him, it was just another day. To the neighborhood, it was the day everything changed. The roar of an engine shattered the calm. Tires screeched, rubber burned. A black SUV swung around the corner like a predator hunting prey. It jumped the curb with reckless force, fake sirens wailing, red and blue lights flashing wildly against the houses. The sound made children cry, dogs barked, curtains snapped shut. The SUV slid to a stop in front of the man's house. Both doors burst open at once. 2 men stormed out. Sunglasses hid their eyes, but arrogance spilled from every step. They wore mismatched tactical vests, radios buzzing, and badges that didn't shine. They dulled under the sun, like toys from a bargain bin, hands where we can see 'em. The first one shouted, voice cracking, as if trying too hard to sound like authority. The man didn't move. The watering can tilted slightly, spilling a thin stream of water into the grass. His face stayed blank. Calm, did you hear me? The second barked, stomping closer. Hands up, now. Finally, the man lifted his head. His eyes met theirs, steady as stone. His voice was deep, controlled, steady in a way that felt more dangerous than anger. This is my house. The first cop laughed, but it wasn't the laugh of confidence. It was hollow, forced. Not anymore, it isn't. HOA says you're trespassing, and when the HOA says move, you move. By now, the neighborhood had awakened. Doors creaked open. Neighbors stepped out onto porches, whispering, pointing, filming with shaky phones. Who is he? A woman whispered. He's lived there for months. Another said nervously, then why are the police here? But these weren't police. The man knew it. The neighbors suspected it. But the 2 enforcers wore arrogance like armor, and arrogance can blind even the sharpest eyes. You think these people will help you? The second one sneered, sweeping his arm toward the gathering crowd. They know the rules. They know who runs this street, and it's not you. The man slowly set the watering can down. The sound of it hitting the pavement rang out sharper than the sirens. He straightened, tall and steady. I live here, he repeated, each word heavier than the last, and you're trespassing on my property. The first enforcer smirked, pulling a pair of handcuffs from his belt. The metal glinted in the sunlight as he twirled them casually, like a predator flashing its teeth. Property, he mocked. You think this belongs to you. You think the HOA cares what you say. Nah, what we say is law, and right now, the law says you're finished. The neighbors stirred. Some gasped, some whispered. A few shook their heads, and then her voice came, sharp, shrill, cutting through the heat like a knife. Arrest him, Karen, the self-pro, claimed queen of the HOA, clipboard pressed to her chest, sunglasses reflecting the flashing lights. Her lips twisted into a smirk of satisfaction. He's been trouble since the day he showed up. He doesn't belong here. He's lowering our property values. A few nervous chuckles followed her words. Some neighbors nodded. Others shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting between her and the man. The fake cop raised the cuffs higher, his grin spreading. On your knees, he ordered. Now. The man's jaw tightened. His silence pressed on the air until the crowd itself seemed to hold its breath. You heard me, the cop barked, stepping closer, taser now in his other hand. Knees down, or I'll put you down myself. Children clung to their mothers. A man whispered, this isn't right. Another muttered, that's not even real police gear, but fear silenced them. The man didn't move. His voice, when it came, was low, dangerous in its calm. You sure you want to do this? The first cop sneered, leaning close, breath sour, arrogance dripping. You think you scare me, you're nothing. Just another outsider. Just another problem we erase from this block. The man's eyes narrowed. For a long second, the street fell silent again. The only sound was the faint drip of water from the abandoned can. Then he spoke 5 quiet words. You'll regret this mistake. And the way he said it? Not loud, not angry, not even threatening, just cold, certain, Final, it made the hairs on the back of every neck stand up. Even the fake cops felt it. But they were too drunk on power to stop. The trap had already been set. The silence on the street cracked like glass when the first fake cop stepped closer. The cheap cuffs in his hand clinked against each other, metal flashing in the sunlight. His boots scuffed the pavement as if he owned it. "Down on your knees," he barked again, last warning. The man didn't flinch. His gaze cut into him, calm yet sharp enough to draw blood. "You're making a mistake," he said. The second fake cop circled behind him, taser raised. His voice was a low snarl. "Don't talk, just obey. This is your last chance." The man stood still, unmoving, like a statue carved from stone. He didn't even blink. "I live here," he said, voice steady. "I pay the bills. I cut this grass. This is my property. You're the intruders." The crowd murmured, whispers swelling. "He's right. I've seen him here every morning." "Then why are they arresting him?" "Because Karen wants him gone. That's why." First cop turned to the crowd, smirking, his voice loud and theatrical. "You see this man? He's breaking community rules. He doesn't belong. And if the HOA doesn't enforce the rules, this whole neighborhood falls apart." Karen's shrill voice rang out again, fanning the flames. "That's right. He's defiant, he's disrespectful, and he thinks he's above us. He's a danger to our peace. Get him out of here." Some neighbors nodded nervously. Others stayed quiet, their eyes glued to the standoff. The man finally spoke again. His tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. The cold steel in his voice carried louder than any scream. "You're not police, and you're not law. You're cowards hiding behind cheap vests and fake sirens." The crowd gasped. The boldness of it cut through the air like thunder. The second cop snarled and lunged forward, shoving the taser against the man's chest. A faint buzz cracked in the air, but the man didn't move, didn't flinch. Didn't even step back. He simply stared into the enforcer's eyes, so steady, so unbroken, that for the first time the fake cop's hand trembled. "What's wrong?" the man asked quietly, not used to someone standing tall. The first enforcer growled, snatching the taser away from his partner. His face twisted with rage. "Enough of this. Kneel, or we'll make you." The man tilted his head slightly, studying them the way a predator studies prey. "You really don't understand who you're dealing with, do you?" The crowd stirred again. Some of them leaned closer. Phones zoomed in. Whispers turned to nervous chatter. "What's he talking about? He's too calm, too confident. Something's not right." Karen cut in sharply, desperate to keep control. "Don't listen to him. He's bluffing. He's a fraud, just like the lies he tells. Arrest him now." The fake cops stepped closer, cuffs ready. But the man raised his hand. Not fast, not threatening, just slowly, deliberately. His palm opened toward them, as if to stop their advance. "You should walk away, right now." The street froze. The arrogance in the fake cops' faces flickered, replaced by something they hadn't felt yet today: doubt. The first one scoffed, trying to laugh it off, but his laugh was shaky. "Or what? What are you gonna do? You think you're untouchable. You think you can scare us with that act." The man's lips curved into the faintest shadow of a smile. Not friendly, not amused, something colder. "You'll find out soon enough." For the first time, the crowd leaned toward him, not away. For the first time, their silence wasn't fear, it was anticipation. And the street itself seemed to know. This was only the beginning. The street was no longer quiet. Dozens of neighbors had gathered now, some in robes, some in work clothes, some clutching coffee mugs they hadn't yet finished. Phones were raised high, recording every second of the confrontation. The flashing fake sirens painted the faces of the crowd in red and blue. Whispers spread like wildfire. "He's been here every morning, watering that lawn." "Yeah, but HOA said he never even filed paperwork." "Paperwork? That man doesn't need paperwork to live in his own house." "SHHH, Karen's here. Careful what you say." At the center of it all, Karen stood like a general on the battlefield, clipboard clutched to her chest, sunglasses gleaming under the sun. She thrived in this attention, in this chaos. To her, the crowd wasn't shocked neighbors. It was her audience, her kingdom. This man. She declared, her voice sharp enough to slice through the chatter, is violating the rules that protect us all. He doesn't care about this neighborhood, he doesn't respect order, and he doesn't belong. That is why my enforcers are here today, to protect you, to protect our way of life. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some people nodded, uncertain but swayed by her authority. Others frowned, whispering to each other. From the corner of the street, a man muttered, "Protect us. Those aren't even real cops." His wife tugged at his sleeve nervously. "Don't say that out loud. She'll fine us next." The fake cop closest to the man with the watering can puffed out his chest, raising his voice so the whole block could hear. "You see this? This is what happens when someone disrespects the HOA. We give you chances. We give you warnings. But if you don't listen, we make you listen." He rattled the cuffs in his hand, like chains meant to scare. The man remained still. His silence grew heavier with every second, pressing against the noise of the crowd. His eyes swept over the neighbors, some afraid, some angry, some ashamed. Finally, he spoke, his voice low but carrying clear. "Look at them," he said, nodding toward the fake cops. "Do they look like law to you, or do they look like bullies in costumes?" The crowd stirred uneasily. A woman near the front whispered, "He's right. Those uniforms don't even match." Karen's voice cracked like a whip. "Quiet, don't listen to him. He's dangerous, he's manipulative, and if we let him stay, this neighborhood will collapse." She jabbed a finger toward the man, her face red with fury. "Cuff him, right now. Show everyone here that the rules will be respected." The first fake cop stepped forward, cuff in one hand, taser in the other. He sneered at the man, his voice dripping with false bravado. "You hear that? The people want order, and order means you don't belong here. You're finished." The man's eyes narrowed, but his voice stayed even, controlled. "Order built on lies isn't order, it's tyranny." The crowd erupted into whispers again. Some recorded closer. Some pulled their children back, afraid something violent was about to happen. The second fake cop snarled. Big words for someone about to hit the ground. The man finally turned his head slightly, scanning the crowd, letting them feel his calm the way they had felt the fake cop's rage. "You all know me, you've seen me. I've never harmed anyone here. I've never broken your peace, and yet here they stand, pretending to be law, trying to take me down for one reason, because I didn't bow to Karen's clipboard." Karen snapped. "Enough. I don't need his lies poisoning this neighborhood. Arrest him now, or you'll answer to me." The crowd gasped. Even her supporters flinched at the venom in her tone. The man tilted his head slightly, eyes locked on her now. His words were soft, but they carried like thunder. "You've mistaken fear for respect, and that mistake is going to cost you." For a moment, the street froze. No one moved. No one breathed. Even the fake cops hesitated, their confidence cracking under the weight of his calm. And the neighbors, they began to wonder, maybe this man wasn't just another resident. Maybe he was something more. The air was thick with tension. The crowd was on edge, holding their breath, watching what was about to unfold. Every neighbor felt it. Something bigger than neighborhood drama was happening right in front of their eyes. The tall fake cop stepped forward, cuffs raised. "That's it," he growled, hands on the hood. "You're coming with us, whether you like it or not." The man didn't move. His calm presence radiated a kind of silent authority that made the fake cops hesitate for the first time. "You've made it personal," the man said softly, "and I don't like personal." The shorter enforcer lunged forward, trying to grab him, but the man moved with almost impossible precision, sidestepping smoothly, letting the man stumble past, but keeping his eyes locked on the fake cops. "You see," he said, "you're sloppy, predictable, weak." The tall one hissed, anger boiling over. "Enough talk. Get him down." The crowd gasped as the fake cops attempted to grab him together. They moved fast, but every step they took was mirrored by a calm, controlled sidestep from the man. He didn't strike, he didn't raise a hand, he didn't even flinch, and yet with every movement he dominated the space. "Do you feel that?" he asked the fake cops, voice low but carrying. "That's fear. Not mine, yours, and it's growing." One of the neighbors whispered, "How is he so calm? They're about to grab him." The shorter fake cop managed to close in, trying to latch the cuffs on, but the man twisted lightly, just enough to break their grip, then stepped back. "Predictable," he said again, almost smiling. "Always trying to overwhelm. You're amateurs." The tall one snarled, pushing forward aggressively. His hand landed on the man's shoulder this time, trying to force him down. But the man's body was a wall, unmoving, unyielding. He shifted slightly, enough to make the cop stumble into the curb. "Get him," Karen shouted, desperation edging her voice. "I don't care what it takes. Show him who's in charge." The man's eyes swept over the crowd, pausing on Karen. He didn't shout, he didn't yell, he just looked at her, and in that look, the entire street felt it. She had no power here, not anymore. "You've underestimated me from the start," he said quietly, "and underestimating me is your biggest mistake." The fake cops hesitated. For a moment, even Karen seemed unsure. The air hung heavy with tension. Every neighbor was watching, phones recording, hearts racing. The man's voice cut through the silence again, sharp and steady. "Step back, walk away, or you'll regret every choice you've made today." A brief pause. The fake cops exchanged nervous glances. Their arrogance faltered. Their confidence wavered. The man didn't move another inch. He didn't have to. His calm, unshakable presence made the fake cops question everything. They were no longer hunters. They were the prey. And for the first time, the crowd realized this was far bigger than HOA drama. The street was alive with tension now. The sun hung high, reflecting off the fake sirens that still flashed wildly from the black SUV. Neighbors had edged closer, holding their breath, phones raised, eyes wide. Every heartbeat in the crowd seemed louder than the shouting around them. The tall fake cop rubbed his jaw, scowling. Sweat gleamed on his forehead. He had tried to intimidate, tried to overpower, and yet the man remained unmoved. Calm, solid, unyielding. Karen's voice pierced the tension, sharp and shrill. "Enough. I don't care how calm he is. He disrespects our community, our rules. Arrest him now or face consequences." The man's eyes flicked toward her briefly. There was no fear, no anger, just a quiet assessment. "You've mistaken noise for authority," he said softly, "and arrogance for power. Neither of those things work here." The stocky fake cop stepped forward, trying to regain control. "You think words will save you. You're finished. Kneel, now." The man tilted his head, studying the two enforcers as though they were puzzle pieces he had already solved. "You rely on fear. You thrive on panic. But I don't play by your rules, and I don't respond to your threats." Karen's glare intensified. She was red, faced now, her voice trembling with fury. "Don't let him get away with this. He's manipulating everyone here." A murmur ran through the crowd. Phones clicked, and cameras zoomed in closer. Neighbors exchanged anxious glances. He's not moving. Look at him. He's so calm. What is he?" The tall fake cop growled, his patience snapping. He grabbed the man's arm, trying to pull him toward the SUV. But the man's body was like iron. He barely shifted, just enough to loosen the grip and send the cop stumbling forward. "You really don't understand," the man said, voice low and measured. "You don't get that fear doesn't come from me. It comes from the truth." The stocky cop raised the cuffs again, hands shaking. "Cuff him. Do it now." The man exhaled slowly, every breath measured, every movement deliberate. "Cuff me. Go ahead. Try. But know this. You will not win today. You're not prepared for what I bring to this street." Karen took a step forward, her clipboard now clutched like a weapon. "I said arrest him. Now." The man's eyes swept over the crowd again, pausing on several neighbors. He let them feel his calm, his control. In that silence, everyone could sense something. He wasn't just a man defending his lawn. He was something else, something dangerous. "You all see it," he said quietly, almost a whisper. The fear in their eyes, the arrogance cracking. "You know it already. They are not law. They are charades, and charades crumble." The crowd shifted, unease spreading. Some neighbors whispered to each other. Others stayed frozen. He's scaring them. I've never seen anyone stand like that. What is happening?" The tall fake cop tried one more time, aggression dripping from his every move. He lunged at the man with a hand on his shoulder. The man sidestepped, his movement smooth, effortless. The cop stumbled, arms flailing, nearly hitting the curb. The man's voice cut through the tension, calm, measured, and deadly certain. "Stop, step back, walk away. This doesn't have to end badly, but if you continue, you will regret it. Every single choice." Karen's lips trembled with rage. "You will answer to me. This neighborhood is mine to protect." The man tilted his head slightly, letting the words sink in. "You protect nothing with lies and threats. You protect only yourself, from the truth, from reality, and that will be your undoing." The street fell into silence. Even the fake cops froze. For the first time, their confidence faltered. They had tried to dominate, to intimidate, to force obedience. But the calm of the man, the sheer weight of his presence, pressed down on them heavier than any authority they had ever known. The neighbors leaned closer, phones raised, hearts pounding. They were witnessing something extraordinary, something that went far beyond HOA drama, and as the man stood there, quiet, commanding, unyielding, the street knew it. This confrontation was no longer about property rules or neighborhood complaints. It was about power, real power, and he had it. The street was alive with tension now. The sun hung high, reflecting off the fake sirens that still flashed wildly from the black SUV. Neighbors had edged closer, holding their breath, phones raised, eyes wide. Every heartbeat in the crowd seemed louder than the shouting around them. The tall fake cop rubbed his jaw, scowling. Sweat gleamed on his forehead. He had tried to intimidate, tried to overpower, and yet the man remained unmoved. Calm, solid, unyielding. Karen's voice pierced the tension, sharp and shrill. "Enough. I don't care how calm he is. He disrespects our community, our rules. Arrest him now or face consequences." The man's eyes flicked toward her briefly. There was no fear, no anger, just a quiet assessment. "You've mistaken noise for authority," he said softly, "and arrogance for power. Neither of those things work here." The stocky fake cop stepped forward, trying to regain control. "You think words will save you. You're finished. Kneel, now." The man tilted his head, studying the two enforcers as though they were puzzle pieces he had already solved. "You rely on fear. You thrive on panic. But I don't play by your rules, and I don't respond to your threats." Karen's glare intensified. She was red, faced now, her voice trembling with fury. "Don't let him get away with this. He's manipulating everyone here." A murmur ran through the crowd. Phones clicked, and cameras zoomed in closer. Neighbors exchanged anxious glances. He's not moving. Look at him. He's so calm. What is he?" The tall fake cop growled, his patience snapping. He grabbed the man's arm, trying to pull him toward the SUV. But the man's body was like iron. He barely shifted, just enough to loosen the grip and send the cop stumbling forward. "You really don't understand," the man said, voice low and measured. "You don't get that fear doesn't come from me. It comes from the truth." The stocky cop raised the cuffs again, hands shaking. "Cuff him. Do it now." The man exhaled slowly, every breath measured, every movement deliberate. "Cuff me. Go ahead. Try. But know this. You will not win today. You're not prepared for what I bring to this street." Karen took a step forward, her clipboard now clutched like a weapon. "I said arrest him. Now." The man's eyes swept over the crowd again, pausing on several neighbors. He let them feel his calm, his control. In that silence, everyone could sense something. He wasn't just a man defending his lawn. He was something else, something dangerous. "You all see it," he said quietly, almost a whisper. The fear in their eyes, the arrogance cracking. "You know it already. They are not law. They are charades, and charades crumble." The crowd shifted, unease spreading. Some neighbors whispered to each other. Others stayed frozen. He's scaring them. I've never seen anyone stand like that. What is happening?" The tall fake cop tried one more time, aggression dripping from his every move. He lunged at the man with a hand on his shoulder. The man sidestepped, his movement smooth, effortless. The cop stumbled, arms flailing, nearly hitting the curb. The man's voice cut through the tension, calm, measured, and deadly certain. "Stop, step back, walk away. This doesn't have to end badly, but if you continue, you will regret it. Every single choice. Karen's lips trembled with rage. You will answer to me. This neighborhood is mine to protect. The man tilted his head slightly, letting the words sink in. You protect nothing with lies and threats. You protect only yourself, from the truth, from reality, and that will be your undoing. The street fell into silence. Even the fake cops froze. For the first time, their confidence faltered. They had tried to dominate, to intimidate, to force obedience. But the calm of the man, the sheer weight of his presence, pressed down on them heavier than any authority they had ever known. The neighbors leaned closer, phones raised, hearts pounding. They were witnessing something extraordinary, something that went far beyond HOA drama, and as the man stood there, quiet, commanding, unyielding, the street knew it. This confrontation was no longer about property rules or neighborhood complaints. It was about power, real power, and he had it. The street had gone silent, except for the distant hum of the city and the faint drip of water from the man's lawn hose. The fake cops were still recovering from their failed attempts, scowls deepening, hands twitching with frustration. Karen's voice cut through the tension, shrill and desperate. You think you can stand there all day? I will have you removed. Do you hear me? Removed. The man didn't answer, not immediately. Instead, his eyes drifted toward the horizon, where the sun reflected off the rooftops, and for a fleeting second, a shadow of memory crossed his face. A flashback hit him like lightning. He was younger, leaner, in a room filled with the cold hum of fluorescent lights. Files stacked high, weapons on tables, tactical maps sprawled across the floor. Orders coming in through the headset, his hands steady, precise, calculating every move. He wasn't just a man. He was a trained agent, one of the most respected in the field. Years in the shadows, taking down threats no one else could. The silent predator, the one they warned rookies about. And now here, on this quiet suburban street, those same instincts were alive. His calm, unyielding presence wasn't just confidence. It was discipline. It was preparation. It was danger. Karen didn't know it. The fake cops certainly didn't. But the crowd sensed it, even if they couldn't name it. Something was different about him. Something powerful. The tall fake cop tried again, stepping closer, voice sharper, trying to intimidate with authority he didn't actually have. You think you can stare us down all day? We have rules to enforce. We have authority, and you will obey. The man's eyes met his, and he finally spoke, voice low, steady, full of quiet menace. You think authority comes from a badge or a vest. It doesn't. Authority comes from action, from knowledge, from the willingness to stand when everyone else runs. Something you clearly lack. The stocky fake cop gritted his teeth, anger bubbling, hands clenching. I've seen men like you before. The man interrupted, calm but cutting. Men who rely on costumes, on words, on threats to hide their weakness. And I've watched them fall. I've watched them crumble under the pressure they never prepared for. The crowd leaned forward, captivated. Some whispered, recognizing the calm precision in his words. Others recorded every syllable. Every neighbor could feel the tension twisting tighter, stretching every second. Karen's voice rose, frantic. Do not listen to him. He is dangerous. He is manipulating you all. The man's gaze swept over her, quiet, calculating, assessing. You call me manipulative. He said softly, because I refuse to bow to fear. I refuse to cower. I refuse to let false authority dictate my life. And that, Karen, is why you will fail. The neighbors felt it, the shift in the air. The man's calm wasn't just defiance, it was command. Every word measured, every gesture precise. The fake cops faltered again, uncertainty creeping into their eyes. He took a slow, deliberate step forward. Listen carefully, he said, voice cutting through the tension like a blade. I've spent years preparing for threats far greater than the likes of you. You are not my challenge. You are a distraction, a minor obstacle, and yet you insist on proving me right. The tall cop glared, trying to mask the unease creeping in. You think you can intimidate us? He spat. The man smiled faintly, not friendly, not amused, cold, dangerous. I don't intimidate, he said softly. I expose. The crowd shifted, murmuring, what does he mean? He's not just some guy in a house. Look at how calm he is. Karen's face twisted in rage. You will all obey. I am in charge here. Don't listen to him. The man's voice was soft now, but it carried weight that made even the loudest voices falter. Power isn't taken from people like me with shouting or fear. It is earned through action, through knowledge, through integrity. And today, the truth stands in front of you. The street seemed to lean in, hanging on every word. The fake cops shifted nervously, their confidence eroding under the quiet, unyielding dominance of a man they underestimated. And as the flashback receded, returning him to the present, the crowd realized one thing. This man was far more than a resident. He was a force of nature, and the confrontation, it had only just begun. The sun beat down relentlessly, glinting off the black SUV and reflecting in the sweat of the two fake cops. Their attempts to assert authority had failed. Every shove, every threat, every lunge had been deflected. Their confidence had begun to crack, and the crowd felt it, leaning forward, anticipating what would happen next. Karen's voice sliced through the tension. Enough of this. You will obey. I am in charge here. Arrest him now. The man didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He simply tilted his head, surveying the scene. His eyes moved over the crowd, taking in the fear, the hesitation, the curiosity, and then they returned to the fake cops. You've made one critical mistake, he said quietly, low enough that only the two enforcers could hear. You've assumed I am powerless, that I am just a man standing on his lawn. The taller fake cop snorted, trying to mask his unease. Powerless, you're about to learn the meaning of that word. He lunged forward, trying to grab the man by the shoulders and force him toward the SUV, but the man's movement was instantaneous. He shifted his weight, pivoted, and the cop stumbled past him, arms flailing, crashing into the curb. The crowd gasped. The shorter cop tried a different tactic. He moved in from the side, attempting to cuff the man, but the man's hand flicked out with blinding precision, knocking the cuffs away, sending them clattering to the pavement. His calm expression never changed. Predictable, he said softly, his tone almost mocking, always trying to overwhelm. You're amateurs. Karen's glare grew venomous. Do it. I don't care how. Show him. The man's eyes scanned the area, noting every obstacle, every potential threat. Then, almost imperceptibly, he shifted his stance. A subtle movement, but enough. The taller fake cop lunged again, and this time the man sidestepped, guiding the cop forward with a precise push that sent him sprawling onto the asphalt. The crowd erupted into murmurs. Some whispered, "Did you see that?" Others leaned closer, phones recording every second. The man's voice cut through the chaos, calm, commanding. You see how easily this ends when you underestimate me. The short cop tried once more, anger overtaking reason. He grabbed at the man's arm, trying to force him down, but the man twisted with perfect balance, stepping behind him. The cop lost footing, almost hitting the curb face. First, you rely on brute force, the man said, his voice a dangerous whisper. I rely on skill, discipline, knowledge, and you. He glanced at Karen. You rely on arrogance. That will be your undoing. Karen screamed, desperation in her voice. You will not humiliate me in front of these people. Arrest him now. The man finally took a step forward, slow, deliberate, commanding the attention of the crowd. His calm authority radiated like heat. Every neighbor felt it, the subtle shift in power. For the first time, they realized he was no ordinary resident. The taller fake cop scrambled to stand, hands shaking, eyes darting. He's just one man. How can he? A quick movement. The man disarmed the situation without touching them. A simple sidestep, a deflection, a presence that dominated the space. And suddenly, the fake cops were off balance, vulnerable, exposed. Do you feel it? The man said quietly. That creeping panic, that doubt in your eyes. That's what happens when you face reality instead of toys and lies. The crowd leaned forward, some whispering excitedly, others why, died with disbelief. He's like a shadow. One neighbor muttered, calm, deadly calm. Another said, Karen's face contorted with rage and fear. Her authority, once absolute, now wavered in front of the gathered crowd and the man's unwavering composure. "You may think you've won," the man said, voice steady, low, controlled. "But this is only the beginning, and when the truth comes, you will wish you had walked away." The fake cops froze, their confidence shattered. The crowd felt the shift. The man had claimed the street without a single punch, a single raised weapon. His presence alone was enough to dominate. The sun beat down, the tension thickened, and the street knew one thing with terrifying clarity. He was not just defending his lawn. He was about to show exactly what it meant to underestimate the wrong person. The street had transformed into a theater of tension. Every neighbor's eyes were fixed on the man standing in front of his house. The fake cops, once confident, now moved like shadows of their former selves, glancing at each other nervously, unsure how to proceed. Karen's voice cracked, high and frantic. "This is unacceptable. I am your authority. I am your leader. Arrest him now. He cannot defy me." A murmur ran through the crowd. Phones were held high, recording. Some neighbors whispered, "Did you see how he moved them? He didn't even touch them and they're falling over. Who is this guy?" The man didn't speak immediately. He just let the crowd feel it. The stillness, the weight, the calm before the storm. Then his voice cut softly, but it carried across the street, deliberate, powerful. "Look around you, these people. They don't follow rules, they follow fear. And today, that fear has turned inward. That fear belongs to them, not me." Karen's hand shook as she pointed at him, her face red with anger and panic. "You will not humiliate me. You hear me. You will obey." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. A few neighbors, previously uncertain, now whispered to each other, glancing at the fake cops. They're scared. They've never faced anyone like him before. Why isn't he afraid? The tall fake cop wiped sweat from his brow, trying to regain control. He's just one man. We can handle this." The man tilted his head, voice calm but slicing through the tension. "Handle what?" Two men in fake vests, acting like enforcers. "You've already failed. You've already lost. And the more you push, the more obvious it becomes." Karen's eyes darted at the crowd, desperate for support. But even her followers were hesitant, uncertain, some holding up phones to capture the chaos. She snapped at a neighbor. "Do you see him? Do you understand? He is defying everything." The man's gaze returned to Karen. His voice was quiet but deadly precise. "Defying fear, yes. Defying lies, yes. And you are afraid of truth, afraid of someone who won't bow to your false authority." The crowd murmured louder. Phones recorded every word. Whispers turned to exclamations. He's not just a man. Look at them. They're panicking. She's losing control." Karen screamed, her voice nearly breaking. "Do not listen to him. He is dangerous. He will manipulate you." The man took a deliberate step forward. Every neighbor flinched slightly at the quiet power radiating from him. "You call me dangerous," he said softly, "because I refuse to be intimidated. You mistake confidence for threat, discipline for arrogance. But that is exactly what I am." The fake cops glanced at each other, fear creeping into their eyes. Their stumbles, their failed grabs, the authority they tried to impose, it all came crashing down. They realized, in that heavy moment, that they were outmatched, outclassed, and out of their depth. The crowd leaned closer. "He's controlling the whole street without a single weapon. Look at how calm he is. Even the cops are afraid." Karen's face contorted, rage and fear colliding. She stomped her foot, pointing at him. "You will answer to me. I am in charge here. Obey." The man's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Not friendly, not mocking, dangerous. Authority is not claimed by shouting, Karen. It is earned, and you have none, not today, not here, and certainly not against me. The crowd could feel it, the weight of dominance, of power, of presence. It pressed down like a storm about to break, and in that silence, they understood something profound. The man standing before them was not ordinary. He was far more than that. Karen's voice shook, almost a whisper now. You can't do this." The man finally spoke, calm, deliberate, every word measured. "Yes, I can, and I will. But you already lost the moment you stepped onto this street pretending to be law. The rest is only spectacle." The crowd leaned in. Phones captured every second. The fake cops took a step back, fear unmistakable. Karen's hands trembled, her dominance crumbling under the quiet authority of a single man. The street had shifted. The balance of power had been rewritten. And the man, he simply stood, calm, steady, unbroken. And everyone watching knew the real confrontation was only beginning. The street had transformed into a theater of tension. Every neighbor's eyes were fixed on the man standing in front of his house. The fake cops, once confident, now moved like shadows of their former selves, glancing at each other nervously, unsure how to proceed. Karen's voice cracked, high and frantic. "This is unacceptable. I am your authority. I am your leader. Arrest him now. He cannot defy me." A murmur ran through the crowd. Phones were held high, recording. Some neighbors whispered, "Did you see how he moved them? He didn't even touch them and they're falling over. Who is this guy?" The man didn't speak immediately. He just let the crowd feel it. The stillness, the weight, the calm before the storm. Then his voice cut softly, but it carried across the street, deliberate, powerful. "Look around you, these people. They don't follow rules, they follow fear. And today, that fear has turned inward. That fear belongs to them, not me." Karen's hand shook as she pointed at him, her face red with anger and panic. "You will not humiliate me. You hear me. You will obey." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. A few neighbors, previously uncertain, now whispered to each other, glancing at the fake cops. They're scared. They've never faced anyone like him before. Why isn't he afraid? The tall fake cop wiped sweat from his brow, trying to regain control. He's just one man. We can handle this." The man tilted his head, voice calm but slicing through the tension. "Handle what?" Two men in fake vests, acting like enforcers. "You've already failed. You've already lost. And the more you push, the more obvious it becomes." Karen's eyes darted at the crowd, desperate for support. But even her followers were hesitant, uncertain, some holding up phones to capture the chaos. She snapped at a neighbor. "Do you see him? Do you understand? He is defying everything." The man's gaze returned to Karen. His voice was quiet but deadly precise. "Defying fear, yes. Defying lies, yes. And you are afraid of truth, afraid of someone who won't bow to your false authority." The crowd murmured louder. Phones recorded every word. Whispers turned to exclamations. He's not just a man. Look at them. They're panicking. She's losing control." Karen screamed, her voice nearly breaking. "Do not listen to him. He is dangerous. He will manipulate you." The man took a deliberate step forward. Every neighbor flinched slightly at the quiet power radiating from him. "You call me dangerous," he said softly, "because I refuse to be intimidated. You mistake confidence for threat, discipline for arrogance. But that is exactly what I am." The fake cops glanced at each other, fear creeping into their eyes. Their stumbles, their failed grabs, the authority they tried to impose, it all came crashing down. They realized, in that heavy moment, that they were outmatched, outclassed, and out of their depth. The crowd leaned closer. "He's controlling the whole street without a single weapon. Look at how calm he is. Even the cops are afraid." Karen's face contorted, rage and fear colliding. She stomped her foot, pointing at him. "You will answer to me. I am in charge here. Obey." The man's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Not friendly, not mocking. Dangerous. Authority is not claimed by shouting, Karen. It is earned, and you have none, not today, not here, and certainly not against me. The crowd could feel it. The weight of dominance, of power, of presence. It pressed down like a storm about to break. And in that silence, they understood something profound. The man standing before them was not ordinary. He was far more than that. Karen's voice shook, almost a whisper now. You can't do this." The man finally spoke, calm, deliberate, every word measured. "Yes, I can, and I will. But you already lost the moment you stepped onto this street pretending to be law. The rest is only spectacle." The crowd leaned in. Phones captured every second. The fake cops took a step back, fear unmistakable. Karen's hands trembled, her dominance crumbling under the quiet authority of a single man. The street had shifted. The balance of power had been rewritten. And the man, he simply stood, calm, steady, unbroken. And everyone watching knew the real confrontation was only beginning. The street had gone completely silent. Every neighbor was watching, hearts pounding, every eye glued to the man standing in front of his house. The fake cops had tried intimidation. They had tried force. They had failed spectacularly. Karen's voice cracked again, desperation and fury mixing into a sharp, ear-piercing scream. "This is unacceptable. I am in charge. Arrest him now or face consequences." The man didn't flinch. Not a single twitch. He surveyed the street, the crowd, the SUV, the fake cops. His eyes narrowed slightly, not in fear, not in anger, but in perfect calculation. "You think shouting will fix this?" he said quietly, his voice carrying like steel across the street. "You think threats will make me bend? Let me show you what happens when arrogance meets skill." The taller fake cop stepped forward, fists clenched, trying one last time to assert dominance. "You will obey. You're under our authority." The man shifted slightly, almost imperceptibly, but enough. The cop lunged, and in an instant, the man moved with blinding precision, sidestepping and guiding the taller cop forward with a subtle push that sent him crashing into the SUV. The windshield rattled, the crowd gasped, and murmurs ran like wildfire. "Predictable," the man said softly, "always brute force, always the same mistakes. Amateur hour." Karen's face turned red with rage. Her voice screamed across the street. "Don't let him mock you, show him." The shorter fake cop, shaking now, lunged at him from the side. But the man pivoted, grabbing the cop's wrist gently, twisting just enough to unbalance him without even raising a hand. The cop stumbled, nearly falling face first. "You call this authority?" the man asked, calm but deadly. "This is chaos. This is illusion, and illusions crumble quickly." The crowd murmured excitedly, leaning closer. Phones zoomed in, neighbors whispered, "Did you see that? He didn't even touch him. He's controlling everything." Even the cops are scared. Karen's scream rose again, almost hysterical now. "This is insubordination. He will pay." The man's gaze shifted toward her. His voice was calm, deliberate, but every word was sharp enough to cut steel. "You claim authority. You thrive on fear. But today, fear belongs to you. Your charade is over. Step back, Karen. Step away and save what little dignity you have left." The taller fake cop tried to regain composure, but the man's presence was magnetic, heavy, inescapable. He didn't raise his hands, he didn't yell. He simply stood, moving only enough to maintain perfect control over the space around him. "You all see it," he said, addressing the crowd now. "The collapse of false authority, the panic of those who depend on fear rather than respect. This is what happens when lies meet reality." Karen's hand trembled as she pointed at him, face contorted with desperation. "Arrest him, anyone, now." The man tilted his head slightly, voice calm, soft, yet cutting. "Watch carefully. Panic is contagious, but so is discipline, skill, truth, and I am the demonstration of the latter." He stepped forward deliberately, every movement controlled, every breath measured. The crowd flinched at the subtle shift in energy. Phones captured every motion. The fake cops froze. Even Karen's most loyal supporters looked uneasy. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," he said quietly. "I've faced threats far greater than you. I've dismantled operations you couldn't even imagine. And yet, here you are, two men, a clipboard, and a misplaced sense of authority. How amusing." The taller fake cop took an unsteady step back. The shorter one wiped sweat from his brow. Karen's voice cracked again, higher, almost pleading now. You cannot do this. You will answer to me." The man's lips curved into a faint, cold smile. "Answer to you," he said softly. "I answer to truth. And today, truth stands in front of you. The rest is spectacle." The street had shifted. The crowd understood something fundamental. This was no longer HOA drama. This was a battle of presence, power, and skill, and the man, he had already won without a single strike. The street had become a stage, and every eye was glued to the man standing in front of his house. The fake cops shuffled, uncertain, every step hesitant, their confidence shattered. Karen's voice rose, trembling with fury. "This is unacceptable. I am your authority. You will obey. Arrest him now." The man didn't flinch. He took a deliberate, measured step forward, calm, controlled. The air seemed to bend around him. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't yell. And yet every word he would speak carried a weight no shouting could match. "You've built your world on lies," he said, voice steady, deliberate, on fear, on the illusion that authority comes from a badge or a clipboard. "You think your presence commands respect. It doesn't. It commands nothing." The crowd murmured. Phones recorded. Neighbors whispered to each other. "Did you hear that? He's taking control of the whole street. Even the cops are scared." Karen's face twisted, rage mixed with panic, desperation. "You will not humiliate me. I will have you removed." The man's eyes flicked toward her, calm, unyielding. "Removed? From what? Your illusions, your lies. Step back, Karen. Step away, and perhaps you can save what little credibility remains." The taller fake cop stepped forward, hands shaking. "He's just a man. We can." The man raised a hand ever so slightly. A simple gesture that didn't strike, didn't threaten directly. And yet, the taller cop froze mid-step. A subtle pressure filled the space, the kind that makes adrenaline spike without a word being spoken. "You're unprepared," the man said softly, cutting through the tension like a blade. "Untrained in reality, reliant on costume and bark, blind to truth, and that is why you falter." The crowd leaned closer. Eyes wide, phones zoomed, they felt it. This quiet dominance, this subtle takeover. The fake cops flinched at each movement, each breath the man took. Karen's voice quivered, shaking with a mixture of anger and fear. "Do not listen to him," she screamed. "He is dangerous. He will manipulate you." The man turned slowly, surveying the assembled crowd. His gaze passed over every neighbor, letting them feel his presence, his control. "Calm, deliberate, unshakable. You all see it," he said softly. "The panic, the doubt, the collapse of false authority, and you understand, even if you can't name it, that real power doesn't come from fear. It comes from presence, skill, knowledge, and discipline. Something they lack, something I embody." The shorter fake cop raised his hands, uncertain, glancing at the taller one. "What? What do we do?" The man's eyes met theirs, calm, unflinching, and deadly certain. "Step aside, walk away, live another day if you can, or continue and experience the consequences of underestimating me." Karen's face was red, trembling with fury and desperation. She stomped, pointing, shouting orders no one would follow. You cannot do this. I am the authority." The man's faint smile curved coldly. "Authority? You think shouting makes you authority. It doesn't. It never did. And now, the truth stands before you. Watch, learn, and understand why you are already defeated." The crowd gasped audibly. Murmurs swirled like wind through the street. Every neighbor felt it. The complete reversal of power. What was once the fake cop's domain, once Karen's control, now belonged entirely to the man standing in front of them. Without raising a weapon, without striking, without a single aggressive movement, he had claimed the street, subtle, controlled, dominant. The sun beat down, the air tense and heavy, the crowd silent but electrified. Karen's voice cracked, almost pleading now. You can't do this. You can't." The man's voice was calm, measured, and final. "Yes, I can, and I have the rest. Is your spectacle your collapse and your failure? Step back, and perhaps you leave intact. Continue, and you'll see exactly why you underestimated me." The street had shifted irreversibly. Fear and awe hung in the air. The crowd knew this confrontation was far from over, but the balance of power had changed forever. The street had become a battlefield of silence and tension. Every neighbor's eyes were fixed on the man, whose calm dominance had turned the fake cop's confidence into visible panic. Karen screamed again, voice sharp, nearly breaking. "You will not humiliate me. Arrest him, now." The man tilted his head slightly, observing her. His calm gaze swept across the street, lingering on the two enforcers who had tried, and failed, to assert control. His voice, low and deliberate, carried across the asphalt. "You call this authority?" he asked quietly. "This is chaos, disorder, fragile men pretending to command power, and yet here I stand, calm, unshaken, unbroken." The taller fake cop swallowed hard. He's just one man. We can." The man's lips curved into a faint, dangerous smile. "You think you can overwhelm me. You think numbers matter. They do not. Precision beats brute force. Discipline beats panic. And skill exposes weakness." The shorter fake cop tried to step closer, hands raised, cuff ready. The man didn't move aggressively. He didn't have to. With a subtle shift of weight, a near imperceptible sidestep, he balanced the cop entirely. The man's calm authority made the cop stumble, almost falling face first onto the street. The crowd gasped. Phones clicked furiously. Neighbors whispered, "Did you see that? He's controlling them without touching them. How is he so calm?" Karen's face contorted with rage. "Do not listen to him. He is manipulating everyone. He is dangerous." The man's eyes returned to her. His voice was low, calm, slicing through her shouting. "Dangerous, perhaps, but not for me. For you, yes. Your fear, your lies, your illusions. They crumble under truth. Step back, Karen. Step away, and perhaps you save what little dignity remains." The taller cop lunged again, desperation taking over. But the man anticipated, pivoting smoothly, guiding the cop past him with the lightest touch. The cop tripped, sprawling toward the SUV, rattling the metal door. The crowd's murmur swelled into audible awe. "You rely on aggression," the man said softly. "I rely on control, on discipline, on foresight. That is why you are already defeated, and why you fail even now." Karen screamed, fury and fear colliding. "Arrest him, anyone, now." The man's gaze swept over the assembled crowd, calm, commanding. Every neighbor could feel the weight of his presence. "Do you all see it?" he said softly. The panic, the collapse of false authority, the unraveling of arrogance. This is what happens when lies meet truth, when bluster meets skill, when fear is turned back upon those who wield it carelessly. The shorter cop glanced at his partner. Fear, raw and unfiltered, flickered across his eyes. We can't." The taller cop wiped sweat from his brow, trembling. The man's calm presence was magnetic, unyielding, suffocating. Every inch of the street vibrated with his dominance. Karen's authority, once absolute, was now visibly crumbling. He took another deliberate step forward. Every neighbor instinctively leaned back slightly, captivated by the weight of his control. Phones recorded every motion, every word, every subtle movement. "You have no idea who you are facing," he said quietly. "I've dismantled threats far more dangerous than the likes of you. And yet, here you are, two men, a clipboard and misplaced arrogance. How amusing." Karen's hands trembled. You will answer to me," she screamed. The man's faint smile was cold, calculated, almost imperceptible. "Answer to you," he said softly. "I answer to truth. I act with precision. I decide when and how consequences unfold. Today, that principle is on display, and you are merely spectators to your own failure." The crowd leaned forward, whispering, gasping. The street had been transformed. What had begun as HOA posturing was now a display of absolute control, dominance, and skill. Without raising a weapon, without shouting, without striking, the man had dismantled the authority structure on this street. The fake cops froze in fear. Karen's panic was palpable. The crowd understood that real power did not lie in badges or commands. It lay in skill, discipline, and presence. The man finally spoke, calm, deliberate, commanding. "Step aside. Leave while you still can. Continue, and you will see why you underestimated me. The rest is consequence." The street shivered under the weight of his words. The crowd gasped audibly. Even Karen's supporters had shifted uneasily. The balance of power had irrevocably changed, and the man, he simply stood, calm, measured, unshakable, dominant, in control, and everyone watching knew this was far from over. The street had transformed into a tense arena. Every neighbor watched, hearts pounding, as the man stood in front of his house, calm and unshakable. The fake cops were trembling, uncertain, every movement hesitant, their authority completely dismantled. Karen screamed again, voice sharp, desperate, almost breaking. "Arrest him, now. Do not let him mock us." The man didn't flinch. His calm gaze swept across the crowd, then fixed on the two enforcers, who were visibly shaking. His presence alone seemed to pull the panic from their minds and twist it into tangible fear. "You've built your authority on lies and fear," he said quietly, measured, almost serene, "and that foundation cracks under truth, under skill, under control." The taller fake cop lunged again, fists raised, trying one last desperate grab. But the man sidestepped fluidly, guiding the officer past him, forcing him to stumble into the curb with a loud thud. The crowd gasped. Phones zoomed in. The shorter cop tried from the other side, reckless and panicked. The man pivoted, deflecting without aggression, using perfect leverage to send him off balance, stumbling backward. Karen shrieked, voice trembling. "Do I see anyone? Show him. He must obey." The man's eyes shifted to her, calm, unflinching, lethal in his precision. "Observe," he said softly. "Observe what happens when arrogance meets reality, when lies meet skill, when fear meets discipline." He took a deliberate step forward, subtle but commanding. Every neighbor flinched at the weight of his presence. Phones captured every motion. The taller cop froze mid-step, trembling. The shorter cop's hands shook uncontrollably. "You think authority is shouting," he continued, voice low, slicing through the chaos. "It is not. Authority is earned. Presence is commanded. Skill is demonstrated. And today you witness all three." Karen's face twisted with fury and fear. "You cannot do this. You will answer to me." The man's faint, cold smile was his only response. "Yes, I will. And you already lost the moment you pretended to hold power over me." He shifted slightly, a movement almost invisible, but enough to destabilize the taller cop again. The officer stumbled, barely catching himself. The shorter cop flinched, fear radiating from him in waves. "You see," the man said, voice calm, deliberate, deadly precise. "This is what happens when preparation meets ignorance, when discipline meets bluster. You falter, you panic, you fail, and all I do is stand." The crowd leaned in, awe and disbelief mixed with excitement. "He's controlling everything without even touching them. Look at how calm he is. This is unreal." Karen's shrill, desperate voice cut through the murmurs. "Arrest him. Anyone. Now." The man's gaze swept across the street. Calm, commanding, "Step back. Walk away. Save yourselves if you can. Continue, and you will witness why underestimating me is catastrophic." The fake cops glanced at each other, panic unmistakable. Karen's face was red, trembling with fury and defeat. The crowd could see it, her dominance shattered. With a single, subtle shift, the man claimed the street completely. He didn't need to raise a hand, didn't need a weapon, didn't need to shout. The panic, the fear, the awe. Everything had shifted under the weight of his presence alone. And as the sun beat down on the asphalt, the man stood, calm, measured, unshakable, dominant, in control, and the crowd knew, with chilling clarity, the confrontation had reached its peak. There was no challenge left, no authority capable of stopping him. The final stand had been won without a strike, without a weapon, without a word of aggression. The street was silent but electrified. Every neighbor, every onlooker, every hidden camera and phone understood the same truth. He was not just a man. He was a force of nature. The street was quiet now. The echoes of Karen's screams and the faltering shouts of the fake cops had faded into stunned silence. Every neighbor stood frozen, eyes wide, phones still recording, breaths held as if daring to exhale would shatter the fragile calm. The man stood in front of his house, tall, calm, unshakable, not a hair out of place, not a muscle trembling. His presence alone radiated power, control, and victory. The sun glinted off the pavement, casting long shadows that seemed to follow his every movement. Karen's face was red with fury and embarrassment. She pointed shakily, voice barely audible. This cannot. I am the authority." The man tilted his head slightly, voice calm, deliberate, and deadly precise. "Authority is not claimed, it is earned. You have neither skill nor discipline. Today, you have demonstrated nothing but panic and weakness." The crowd murmured, whispering among themselves. He's untouchable. Even the cops can't handle him. She's losing everything right in front of us." The taller fake cop tried to speak, but his voice was barely audible, quivering with fear. We tried." The man's gaze met his, calm and controlled. "Exactly. You tried and you failed, predictably. But learn this. Hesitation, reliance on bluster, and arrogance without skill will always lead to failure." The shorter cop lowered his head, shame and fear written across his face. He shuffled backward, unable to meet the man's gaze. The street was his, completely, not through violence, not through threats, but through mastery, presence, and calculated action. Karen took a step back, trembling. Her once confident posture now crumbled entirely. She attempted to regain composure, but even the words that left her lips sounded weak, hollow. You cannot, you will." The man's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "I already have. Step back, and perhaps some dignity remains for you. Continue, and you will only witness more of what happens when authority is assumed rather than earned." The crowd began to murmur louder, voices filled with awe. Neighbors whispered, some clapping quietly, others still frozen in disbelief. Phones continued recording, capturing every moment. He didn't even raise his voice, and they're terrified. He controlled the whole street, just by standing there. She has no power now. The man stepped forward slowly, deliberately, letting the crowd feel the shift in energy. Each step was measured, calculated. The fake cops instinctively stepped back, stumbling slightly, aware they were outmatched. Karen's voice was a weak squeak now, almost pleading. You can't. It's impossible." The man's voice was calm, soft, yet cutting through the street like a blade. Impossible is a word used by those who refuse to prepare, to learn, to master themselves. Today, the impossible stands in front of you, quiet, controlled, victorious. This is the result of skill, patience, and unwavering presence. The sun beat down, the street silent but electric. The crowd, once passive onlookers, now understood the reality of the man before them. He had defended his home, his dignity, and his truth, not with weapons, not with aggression, but with mastery of mind, body, and presence. Karen's face had drained of color, rage giving way to humiliation. The fake cops slumped, defeated, understanding fully that their attempts at dominance had crumbled entirely. The man finally turned toward the crowd, calm and commanding, voice low but audible. "Let this be a lesson. Fear can be wielded, but skill, discipline, and presence dominate it. False authority, bluster, and intimidation falter when met with reality, and reality is mine to command." The neighbors began to clap quietly at first, then louder as the realization sank in. Phones recorded every word, every subtle motion, every calculated step. Awe and respect filled the street. Karen, defeated, finally stepped back, realizing her reign of control had ended that day, publicly, irrevocably. The fake cops shuffled away, humiliated, beaten without a single strike, and the man, he stood alone, calm, measured, dominant, victorious. The street, once a theater of chaos and intimidation, had been claimed, not by force, but by mastery. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows, and the street held its breath one final time, acknowledging the undeniable truth. He was not just a man, he was authority itself. The confrontation was over. The lesson was clear, and the street, forever, would remember the day false authority met unshakable mastery.